Standard Rugby Podcast with Lawrence Dallaglio.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Evening Standard Rugby Podcast. My name is Lawrence Dallaglio, and joining me for the last time in the playing season, that is Steve Cording from the Evening Standard. Steve.
Lawrence, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. We had a big week, didn't we? Big week in the build-up. It's been that kind of business end of the season where it's all about the finals.
Well, it's all about awards. Let's start with yours. Congratulations, the Charles Tyrwhitt Rugby Book of the Year. Were you surprised when you got some good books you were up against?
Listen, I think you're always honoured and humbled to a certain degree. There were some wonderful books at the Book Awards. I think all the nominees were outstanding. Wayne Barnes, Maggie Alfonsi. There were some really good rugby books there. So, yeah, delighted to win. And we had a good night out. And our special guest this week is a Premiership finalist. In fact, he's better than that. He's a Premiership champion. It is a friend of the Evening Standard podcast. It is the former London Irish and now Northampton Saints back row forward, Tom Pearson. Tom, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Do you even know what time it is yet? Have you recovered? First of all, congratulations on an amazing season and obviously the highlight of it last Saturday at Twickenham with that incredible win. Have the boys finished celebrating?
Yeah, I think we're today's known as day 3, so it's not Monday, it's just day 3. That's what I'm going with.
We're a bit disappointed you didn't come on with your ski goggles on. Have you still got them?
I've lost them, unfortunately. They went missing on Saturday night at some point.
Whoever provides them Sun God, they've got some serious sponsorship, haven't they? They might be delighted.
Who organised that then for you?
Tommy Freeman, I believe.
Another friend of the pod. First of all,
what is that? Just a story on that. What is the background to that? Have you any idea? Because it was the most random thing I've ever seen.
I have a feeling that a French team did it a couple of years ago, and it's basically just, I assume, just protect your eyes from champagne spray.
And Courtney Laws looks a fine picture of a man at the press conference with no top on and just wearing a pair of ski goggles.
Just had a pair of pants on, didn't he, at least?
I'm sure the Northampton sponsors might have something to say about that. But anyway, listen, let's talk us through the celebrations. I mean, obviously, you have your own celebrations post-match in the changing rooms, but the scenes that we saw on the bus coming back to Northampton, I mean, I've never seen anything like it. That was sort of football club-esque. How did that feel?
Yeah, that was unbelievable, and I don't think anyone was quite expecting that, to be honest. So we were just getting back. I probably saw 20, 30 people outside the gates, and kind of as we drove in and parked the bus outside, there was probably 300-400 people just waiting for us, cheering us as we got out of the bus.
We'll talk about the game itself, then the season. I mean, obviously, you guys have gone into that game with a huge amount of confidence, having beaten Saracens for the third time this season. I would imagine, even though you lost the semi-final of the Investec Champions Cup, you would have taken a lot of big game kind of mentality away from that match and thought that you've got the belief to win this. But what was the build-up like at Saints all week? Was it calm? Was it, I don't know, was it different to a lot of other things? Because it's a big game, but how you approach it is so important.
Yeah, I think it was pretty normal, to be honest. We spoke about it at the start of the week. Just turned up to training on Monday morning. It just seemed like a regular week, which actually really helped us build into it. Over the next few days, and went through stuff on Tuesday like completely normal. And it probably wasn't until we got to London the night before, which it really sunk in that we're actually in a Premiership final now. So
we spoke to you last year, Tom, when you were still London Irish player. You came on the show. It's obviously been a huge transition for you over the last 12 months. How much does Northampton now feel like home for you? Is it right? Do you share a house with Finn Smith?
Yeah. Finn's my landlord.
He's your landlord.
Well, he won't be for the next few months, but go on.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You can have whatever parties you want.
Central.
He's just left this morning actually, and he's left it very clean. So he's probably expecting it to be like this in a couple of weeks' time. So
just on the game. I mean, obviously, you guys, I think, thoroughly deserve to win the match, quite honestly. You outscored your opponents 3 tries to 2. I think everyone talks about the balance of the season. You know, you guys finished first in the Premiership, Bath second, so it was the best two teams against each other. And I think in terms of the quality of rugby that both teams have played throughout the tournament, throughout the season, you know, you guys deserve to win, but you still got to go and do it on the day. I was trying to explain to people after the match that when you're playing against the team that have a man sent off, particularly early on in the game, it doesn't always pan out the way people think. Because that team, in this case Bath, kind of are galvanised by that, and they kind of almost play like they've got an extra man as opposed to a man down. And you could see that they felt sort of almost offended by the red card, and it visibly lifted them. And secondly, and I you know, this is no criticism, but the game seems to even itself out in terms of decisions that get awarded. So, did you at any point feel that that you were playing against a team that had been felt like they'd been hard done by, I guess?
Yeah, I think there's definitely an element of that. I think from our side of the story as well, you know, when someone other team does have a red card, you know, and then we scored 2 quick tries quite soon after, probably subconsciously in the back of our minds thinking, you know, we're close here. We can probably, you know, we can just stick at it now and play how we have done, and potentially take your foot on the gas. I'm not saying we did, but you know, subconsciously that might be something in that. And then, you know, we were caught slack a little bit, and they went over with the pick and go quite soon after. So, and all of a sudden it's a 1-score game again. So yeah, no, it's difficult. But I also thought, yeah, look, you're right. There's probably a few decisions that were made to potentially even up a little bit, and you know, as we had the advantage of still having 15 guys on the pitch.
And did it feel like a different game to the ones you played all season? I mean, obviously you talk about the semi-final in Dublin, you talk about the Saracens game, which was huge to beat a quality opponent like that. But was it physically any different to a Premiership game, or is it just another game happened to be in front of 82,500? Because certainly from the outsiders, as a fan watching, to have a game like that where the atmosphere was, you know, the red card is a bit of jeopardy. You know, the momentum of the match kept swinging one way then the other, and to go into the last line out of the game with the game still very much in the balance, certainly the atmosphere was sort of almost palpable, really. Did it feel like that as a you know, to play in?
Yeah, it wasn't a bit there, to be fair. I think there was always a little bit of extra bite, especially after they went down a man. I think, you know, they still really came at us. They took, you know, they lost Alfie Barbary because of the red card, you know, him having to come off, so they lost the carriers, but you know, they're still very strong going forward. And yeah, from our point of view, we're just waiting for it to click. You know, I was especially, and you know, it just didn't seem quite to get there for the whole 80 minutes, and yeah, it's a strange one, really.
Just on the red card, what's your view as a player? Because it's one thing, I mean, the rules are the rules at the moment, so it was a red card by the letter of the law. But you don't want to see a player sent off in a final. We had a player sent off in the Premiership final. We had a player sent off in the Champions Cup final. Do you think there needs to be something almost that we don't have at the moment, which is in between a yellow and a red, where maybe if it's a dangerous but accidental, you say sit out for 20 minutes and then you come back on? Because it did seem very, very harsh. And as you said, it wasn't just Benno Urbano, it was Alfie Barbary as well, who had their match completely ruined.
I think you know, they talk about, you know, having someone off for 20 minutes and then being able to bring someone else on. I think there's something in that. I think it's definitely worth a trial, isn't it? See how you get on. You know, there's a couple of ways they can go about it, but it does seem to, you know, be happening quite often now, and you know, you wouldn't want it sway games, especially if it happens early on in the game. You know, it's almost, some games are, you know, a finished article after one team goes down to 14.
In the build-up to the game, there's obviously a lot of talk about some of Northampton's greatest ever players, Courtney Laws, Alex Waller, Lewis Ludlam, etc., with their send-off. And that's all very nice in terms of its sentiment. But it's only nice if you give them the right send-off and you win. Otherwise, it falls flat on its face. There's a balance, isn't there, to be struck between obviously wanting to use that as motivation and the build-up, but equally, you've got to get it right. Because you know, I'm sure every club every season has someone that they want to say goodbye to, and it can go the other way as well. You know, you've got to just make sure you win.
We've probably coined it this year as like the last dance for those guys, as Luds, Waller Brothers, Hilly, Courts. There's a huge amount of caps leaving this year, and to send them off by winning the Prem, but on the 10-year anniversary, it's unreal, and it's exactly what those guys deserve, which is great.
What have you learnt from Courtney and Lewis since you've been there?
Loads. It's the start of the season playing with those two guys was unbelievable. It's one of those guys that shows that you can really keep developing your game. And as soon as you get to the top of your game at one aspect, there's always something else you can be working on and improving. Same with Lutz, he's an absolute warrior. Great captain as well. Lutz is, one of, if not the best speaker that I think I've ever had as a captain. Really knows how to galvanise the boys and, say the right things at the right times without repeating himself. He's a great leader.
Just talk us through what the change has been, what you feel the change has been this season, because from an outsider's perspective, Northampton have been building under Chris Boyd. I think there was a real attacking focus. Obviously, that's been carried on with Sam Vesti and Dowse and all those guys. But for me, the difference has been the depth that you've suddenly found in your tight five. And then obviously the second part of it is defensively. You seem to have got as excited about defending as you have attacking. And you don't win any trophies in any competition without stopping people scoring tries. So is it easy to say that that's been the sort of main difference, the tight five, and obviously the addition of some real quality in the back row as well?
Defensively, I think up there for tackle completion, tackle dominance. We're right up there in the league, top 3 in both of those stats. And Radders has been a massive help. It's been a great buy-in. His coaching style is not massively technical. But everyone's really bought into the defensive share, and it showed that senses in the team that it would be we can always score more than you, and we score, you score, we score, you score. Very much this year that's changed. A lot less easy tries, simple errors. So.
Was it the social media video of Lee Radford, or not social media video? Was it? It was him tackling an intruder outside his flat in his pants. Is that right? Is that what he showed you to get you inspired at the start of the season?
I actually wasn't there for that one particular meeting in the summer, but I've heard it's ring doorbell footage.
Very simple sermon. It's like would you let an intruder break into your house?
Well, I remember when you said that to me, and I was scared the jeebus out of me.
You wouldn't let anyone come to your home and steal your property. So why would you let anyone come to your home and score a try?
All I'm going to say is I don't think he'll be back for more. Put it that way. He knocked on the wrong door that day, and then.
Well, no, quite. Now, listen, 7 of your teammates at Saints have been named in the England squad. They appear to nearly all be backs, actually. I think six are backs and 1 forward. Obviously, you're delighted for them, as we all are for any of our teammates who get selected, or anyone who gets picked for England. You've been part of Steve's squad on and off, and you got 1 cap to date, haven't you, so far? There is conversations between, you're not there, you're not going to New Zealand, Japan, which is on the one side is not a bad thing because it means you can, positively, utilise it as a chance to really recuperate and come back stronger next season. But do you have honest conversations about what you need to do to get yourself out there? And I'm assuming you'll probably be 1 phone call away from going out there if anything happens to anyone. But do you reflect on it in a way that tries to take the positives out of what happened this season?
Of course. I think it's difficult having not played, a whole amount of rugby towards the end of this year. I did miss quite a large chunk of my groin. But I think with Steve and the England stuff, it's just important. I keep improving, get the basics going. I think there's a big focus on set piece as well, and potentially. Looking at playing 6 as well. So if I can add that to my game, maybe the Saints start playing a little bit more there next year. With Courtney leaving, I think it's definitely his shirt this year. But next year I could definitely make that mine. So we'll see how it goes. But I think I need to probably add that to my repertoire as well.
And just finally, what is it? I mean, given the journey you've had with London Irish, with everything you've had in your rugby career. I'm assuming your parents and your family were all at the game. it's a special feeling, isn't it, to have that Premiership winners medal around your neck at the end of it. Makes all the sacrifice. It's just a huge relief. Makes all the sacrifice that you've put in kind of worthwhile. All those days of being injured, etc. This season, will I, won't I play again, etc. Just sum up what this season for you particularly, but for Northampton has meant by ending up with that Premiership medal around your neck.
Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, I couldn't have asked for much more already for my first year. I think, the rugby club as a whole, the amount of support we've had over the last day or two, it shows, like the bus tour on Sunday, the amount of people waiting for us when we got back to the club. It's really ignited the town. And standing on the top of that bus, I never realised that many people lived in Northampton, let alone were staying.
Neither did we.
So there were crowds of people, and they came out of the club, and they're following us all the way into the square. But yeah, just the amount of support we've got. There were loads of Saint shirts at Twickenham on Saturday, definitely more than Barkham, I reckon. And just to unite the whole town like this, send off those guys as well. I mentioned earlier, it's exactly what they deserve. So yeah, it's been a great first year.
Well, certainly as a neutral, as we both are, I think Northampton Saints have given us some magic moments this season. I think you've been a brilliant watch. So congratulations to you, to your coaches, to all the players. And enjoy your off-season. Enjoy the next 2 weeks. You've got my number for when you have that little house party while Finn's still away. So I'll bring the fizz.
I'll add you to the Facebook group. Open invite.
We can make a right mess of the place.
Open invite on Facebook. Oh dear, no, Finn would love that.
Tom, thank you for talking to us. Thank you for sobering up to talk to us, actually. And congratulations on being a champion, a Premiership champion. And we'll catch up with you very soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Tom.
Appreciate it.
What would you say is your highlight?
Well, I think the Rugby World Cup at the beginning was obviously a highlight. England's progress was unexpected. I think the real highlight was probably Wayne Barnes refereeing the World Cup final and hanging up his boots, his refereeing boots for sure. And he's obviously been the beneficiary, and quite rightly so, of a number of special recognition awards this season for his services and contribution to the game. So that for me, I guess across the Premiership, the fact that we've got a new winner on the Premiership trophy, the fact that the season was won and dominated by two teams that we wouldn't have expected necessarily to have dominated. I do feel it's a bit of a crossroads in the Premiership where it's moved away from Saracens and away from Exeter, although they will come back stronger next year. And I think in Northampton Saints and Bath, we've had two of the best rugby playing, attacking, focused sides in the Premiership. And the last 10 or so weeks of Premiership rugby have been very exciting. So that, and maybe the emergence of some of the younger players like Finn Smith, who I think is a superb talent for Saints in England, and Woboso as well on the wing for Exeter, who I think won various awards as probably the breakthrough international player of the year as well. So lots to be kind of excited about, really.
Yeah, Nick, what's your highlight of the season?
Something slightly left field. I think my highlight of the season is the way Jamie George came and sat down and spoke to all the assembled media 2 days before Scotland versus England in the Six Nations, just days after the death of his mum. And I think, you couldn't hear a pin drop in that room. And he sat down in front of about 30 people he doesn't know very well, some of whom he'd never met before, and spoke to us for about 25 minutes, half an hour, like he was speaking to one of his best mates. And it was unbelievable. And I just think that would have been a difficult enough thing to do with people he'd known all his life. But he had spoken very openly about wanting England to reconnect with the public and the England team to reconnect with the public. And in that 25 minutes, half an hour, he absolutely lived up to his word. Yeah, that was something that really stood out as a remarkable moment. And it was, to be honest, it was a privilege to hear him talk in that way.
Well, for me, it was definitely seeing Jack Willis tear it up in the Champions Cup final at Tottenham. I thought being there was such an experience. I know he didn't get man of the match, but for me, he was man of the match. I thought he was superb, and it was such a great occasion to go to. So, very lucky. That was my first Champions Cup final. Hopefully, there'll be many more.
Yeah, listen, that was a highlight, and I suppose from an international perspective, listening to you there, Nick, talking about Jamie George, it didn't happen that weekend against Scotland because we all know the result, but the way that England played against Ireland, I mean, that just shows you that whatever you think in life, whatever the odds are against you, the underdog can always win. And, that was something that I enjoyed throughout my whole career where until I got to the latter stages with England, I was always in a Wasps team or an England team that was written off. And I just thought, the Irish have been magnificent under Andy Farrell. They've been superb at provincial level. They've ruined every weekend for us for the last few years. They've celebrated St Patrick's Day in Ireland or in England and lorded it over us. And to burst their bubble and to beat Ireland in the way that England did off the back of the performance against Scotland, I think that if Jamie George does nothing else in his international career, I think the highlight will be that performance against what was one of the best sides in the world. And the manner in which that they won the game, and the noise at Twickenham, I think on that day,
that drop kick went over,
when that drop kick went over, and the noise and the atmosphere in the Premiership final at the weekend, where we went down to the last play of the game, and we still didn't know who'd won it, I think shows that there is still an enormous amount of potential and an enormous amount of growth to be had in the club and international rugby. It's been a long day and a long season. And Nick, congratulations for surviving the Evening Standard Rugby podcast for the entire season.
Thanks, gents.
My thanks to you for your entire contribution. My thanks to Steve Cording from the Evening Standard, and of course to our special guest, the newly crowned Premiership champion, Tom Pearson. That's all for now. I hope you've enjoyed everything that we've had to say over the course of a European, international and domestic rugby season. Thank you to all our guests over the past year, to our producer, Julie Banks, and to Voxpod Studios for hosting us. Enjoy your summer wherever you may be. Keep an eye out for our return. And as ever, thanks for listening.